So I don't typically like to talk about a team or a player more than once within a certain amount of time that much, but we have some new Buddy Hield stuff, so we're going to talk about it. According to Shams and other people at The Athletic, there's a chance Buddy Hield could get traded because he doesn't want to be in Sacramento. And apparently this was happening before the starting role because he didn't believe that Luke Walton bought into him completely. I think there might also be something to the fact that the Kings didn't just give him a big contract, which we can say was the right move, but in terms of what Buddy would like to believe, it could be a little different. He could be like, well, what, you're not fully invested in me? You're not just going to give me what I want the moment I ask for it? And that can be a thing, and I don't think Buddy was asking for a max. And now we have this benching sixth man thing, even if Hield has been better, and the Kings, I think, have been a little better since the move actually happened, starting Bogdan over him, but, this is the stuff, pretty much. There's a chance this, of course, does not happen, and the Kings can convince Buddy to be all in, but I don't know. I mean, we see this happen kind of regularly at this point in the NBA, and well, a lot of the time it does result in a guy changing teams. So if we put ourselves into that mindset of this could happen, then I think that dictates the way certain things go down for Sacramento. I mean, this probably gives them extra incentive to re-sign Bogdan. And I did mention this in that original Hield video. I think Hield is the one guy who could get them the most stuff back, because you're not going to trade Fox and Bagley, and I think you're willing to keep Bogdan. You're going to be able to do it for not that much money, so Hield would probably be the guy, and I think a lot of teams would love to have him. I mean, you're talking about a dude who's, how good of a shooter is he in the ranks of the NBA? He's somewhere up there, certainly. I mean, 38% on 10 threes a game. Last year was 43% on 8 a game. The dude can fit in anywhere, but of course we know he can go off the dribble. He can create his own shot. I think a number of good teams would love to put him into their already established system. I think there are some mediocre to bad teams who would love to give their teams a jump start, and Hield could definitely do it. I think the one team that I immediately think of that would love to have the guy is the Magic. I mean, they're just desperate for any sort of go-to scorer. But before we get into all that, if we really are going to be in a world in which this could happen, then what should the Kings want for Buddy? I mean, of course, the market is going to dictate it at the end of the day, but I'd like to think you could get a decent amount back. I mean, I don't know, is a pick and a good young player enough? The draft matters. I mean, this draft is being talked about by a lot of people as not very good. I don't have an opinion on that. I'm not a college basketball guy, so I'm just going to take everybody's word for it. So as a result, maybe the 20th pick in this draft, or pick a number outside the lottery, whatever it may be, that might be a little worse than what it normally could be, which affects that in some way. As far as an intriguing young player, I guess it depends on the team. I mean, I would love to see Buddy on, maybe not love to see it, but I think it'd be interesting if Toronto considered taking him on. So, like OG Anunoby and the Raptors first. Is that a fair return for Buddy Hield, assuming you get the money to make sense? I don't know. There's a chance you believe OG can be better than Buddy Hield. I mean, I don't think it's ridiculous. I think OG's got a chance to be an all-defense guy. Maybe not this season, but down the road, If I go back to a team like Orlando, they have all of their picks, but they'd probably be a little more hesitant to give one up, but maybe they'd pull a T-Wolves and just be like, screw it, we're not going anywhere, so let's actually get somebody. But even then, when I look at them, it's probably Aaron Gordon who they'd want to move. But do the Kings want another front court player? I don't know about that. I suppose there also could be a chance the Kings would look to get a bunch of solid players for Buddy Hield. I mean, maybe that's what this team really needs, and is just good two-way players as, maybe one low-usage starter, and then a couple of 20-minute-a-game guys who can give you good minutes. But I don't know if there's a 3-for-1 trade out there for Buddy Hield like that, or even like a 2-for-1. I'm sure there's one out there if you look hard enough. I guess it could be like a lower scale version of Jimmy Butler for Robert Covington and Dario Saric. Of course, neither one of those dudes are on the Wolves anymore, but you get it. So maybe the Kings can find their own version of that in the league. Of course, the thing that throws all of this into a bit of flux is this would either happen in the offseason or it would happen next year, and how do the Kings operate a whole offseason of, are they going to trade Buddy, are they not going to trade him, are they going to go into it aggressively looking to move him, and how is that going to affect the way other teams view the draft? And there's a chance he would just be moved on draft night, or there's a chance that could be a sign and trade because it seems that might be more of a thing now. So it makes it all tough. But we can still project, or at least I can, that Buddy would still be a pretty popular trade chip, especially because in a way he's like a not as good version of Bradley Beal, who is going to once again become the prime trade dude this offseason. And Hield's not going to cost as much in terms of assets, but also in terms of money. I mean, the dude's making like less money as his contract goes. But anyway, if I can get back to random Hield trade speculations if we ever get to that point. Again, because of his contract and his play style, I really could picture him ending up basically anywhere. Like a lottery team could trade for him, assuming they had enough stuff and they didn't have to give up a really good pick. Because he's under contract for a while, unless you fear that what he's doing with the Kings, he'll just do on your team and he'll demand out. But anyway, does that mean I think the Cavs, Hawks, Knicks, Pistons, T-Wolves, Pelicans, or Spurs will trade for him? I don't know. I think San Antonio would be interesting if I had to pick one that I would care about the most. I guess New Orleans as well if they just wanted to get more shooting, but I feel like they want to hold on to what they got going on because since Zion came back, they have been pretty interesting. I think the Raptors would also be interesting, but there's a lot of factors there. Would they really want to give up Anunoby and, some sort of a pick? Are they going to re-sign Van Fleet? Because then if they do, you're going to go Lowry, Van Fleet, Hield. In theory you could because of how good of a defensive team they'd probably still be, but I don't know. The Warriors have their pick this year, but they don't really have the salary to get to Hield unless they wanted to move off Wiggins already, which I don't think is going to happen. Similar thing with Milwaukee. They've got that Pacers pick, but I don't know if they have the players that the Bucks or the Kings would want. Do we live in a world in which Buddy Hield would get traded for Al Horford? I'm sure Philly would think about it, but would the Kings want to lock into that? I don't think so. And I can't really picture Philly trading out like Josh Richardson for the guy. The OKC Thunder, of course, have a million picks, but I don't know how the contracts really get there unless you're putting Schroeder in the move. And, does Schroeder do that for the Kings? Maybe he would. Buddy in Dallas would be very interesting, but the Mavericks draft situation is just so out of whack because of the years that they're trading to the Knicks. So it is interesting. I really believe a lot of teams would love to have Buddy Hield because of his fit and his contract. Once I start going down teams and looking at the contracts and the picks everybody's got, it's not as obvious as I initially thought it would be. But even at the same time, if Hield really became available, I think the Kings would get a good return, even if I can't find the obvious one right now. I guess if Brooklyn was really concerned about the Dinwiddie, LeVert, KD, Kyrie fit, maybe, you want to do a LeVert for Buddy Hield? I don't know. I'm figuring this out as I go. I should probably just stop. I'm sure you could do a better job than I could of finding a move within all this. But yeah, to say it again, Buddy Hield's good, and if it really gets to that point, I think we will definitely see him on the move, and I think the Kings would get something back, not just some BS.